Today we're joined by Gerard Craft, a James Beard Award winner and Food and Wine Best New Chef, owner and executive chef of Niche Food Group. We're at one of the properties today. You guys operate, I believe, 8, soon to be 9 restaurants.
Something like that.
Crazy. In St. Louis and one in Nashville. And also owner of one of the coolest job titles I could ever imagine in corporate world, Chief Labor Officer for St. Louis City SC. So Gerard, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Appreciate having you on. So first, I guess, we're in a new setting today. We usually record virtually, like in my room, in my makeshift closet, but we're at Bowood by Niche today. So can you tell us a little bit about Bowood and how this came to be?
Yeah, so Bowood has been around for, I don't know, 15 years as a garden and nursery that sells beautiful plants and also has holiday attached to it that sells like little gifts. But they had a restaurant here for a long time, maybe 11 or so years, called Cafe Osage. And when it closed for the pandemic, they decided that wasn't really what they were into doing. They were more into the plants and everything like that. And at that point, just decided they really wanted a different operator. So yeah, so this is it's a restaurant within a garden center, so really pretty, lots of greenery around, and yeah. So when they asked us if we were interested, we weren't planning on opening another restaurant right then in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah. But I've always really loved this space, and their father actually had started a nonprofit called Magnificent Missouri. With a friend of ours, Dan Burkhart, and we played a big role in helping launch Magnificent Missouri, just because it was really tied to the work we did at Niche, and so we actually did our launch party here, doing live fire cooking in the back. So we even have this old video. So it was really like a full circle moment. And, it just made a lot of sense for us.
Anything unique in the name, Bowood? Is there anything significant there?
So Bowood is their name, right? Yeah. It's I don't know actually. I should know the background, but they have Bowood Farm. That's further out west, where they grow a lot of their plants and everything like this. And this is kind of their shop within the city. And so it really is like an urban oasis. And they never did dinner before. So when we came in, we built this outdoor kitchen with a wood-fired pizza oven, wood-fired grill, and expanded the patio quite a bit. So at nighttime, it's amazing out here.
Beautiful out here, even in the day. I've never been here before, but it's a cool ambiance, both inside and outside. Yeah. Very different from many restaurants that we're able to go to.
Yeah, you kind of step away into like a little peaceful place.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. You do, absolutely. Well, while we're in peace here, Gerard, let's take a step back. Let's get to know you a little better. But grew up in DC, correct?
Yep.
Tell me about DC. How are you still a big DC fan? Are you? Is it still in your blood? Definitely.
That's what my parents still live in DC. Okay. I was just down there with my brother last week, and we went to a Nationals game. I am a Cardinals fan, and growing up, they didn't have the Nationals. Right. We didn't really have a baseball. We had the Orioles in Baltimore. Okay. So even then, you had to drive an hour away for a game or something like that. But I was a diehard Orioles fan.
That's funny.
Yeah, Cal Ripken, Murray. I mean, that was like my
good time to be Orioles.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Number 8 is my lucky number.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. So DC, growing up with your family there, was anyone, the chef in the house, was anyone exceptional with the craft, or were you guys just a normal family who grew up in DC? Was anyone that had that inkling towards food?
So my family's always been really focused around food. I, on the other hand, was a really picky kid. Like, I was the only one in the family that was super picky about everything except, so I had a nanny who I called Dia, named Cecilia Asunso, and she's from Brazil. And so that was about the only thing I ate. It was either kind of like SpaghettiOs, mac and cheese, or like all things Brazilian, coxinha, pão de queijo, like these cheese breads and feijoada, and but anything she touched was gold. And so I mean, you still see that kind of influence my cooking today.
In Cinder House, right? That's kind of the homage.
Cinder House, but I mean, the Diaz cheese bread that are down there and stuff. were served the the original niche, and just
That's
kind of
awesome.
always followed me around.
Very cool story. Very
Yeah.
unique story. So fast forward here a little bit. So I know you spent some time at a culinary institute in, was it Salt Lake City, correct? Kind of getting your chops up there. How do we get, I guess, from growing up as a child in DC into going out eventually? I know you made it west. How do we get kind of our first foot into cooking or into taking the next step in our career?
So I had gone to boarding school out west
Yeah.
in northern Idaho, and was into photography, and that took me to college in Salt Lake City, Utah, to continue. My apprenticeship in high school was as an action photographer, so I worked with a ski snowboard photographer out there, and so wanted to keep on that track. So went to college in Salt Lake City, Utah, up by the mountains, and ended up dropping out of college because as much as I loved photography and everything, I was not a great student, never have been, and so I decided I needed to get a job. My parents were like, "That's great and all, you're dropping out of school. We're supportive of you, but go get a job." And so a real job. My photography did not pay anything. It was so much of it was just I'll go shoot for you for free. And so I got a job at a car wash in the morning, and a place called Fat's Grill, washing dishes and cooking at night. Yeah.
I mean, really starting from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Do you think that's kind of helped shape your mindset as you've gotten further and further up the chain and into kind of now overseeing, a whole variety of a network of restaurants? Is that, the experience at the very kind of bottom of the food chain, I guess per se, has that kind of helped you?
Yeah. I mean, there's no job that's beneath me. And take that another step. I think, the dishwasher is the most important role in the restaurant. I mean, they're highly regarded in my book, and so I've always taken really, really good care of
absolutely.
Of our dish crew.
I love that you said that too. So you start. What was it? Big Fats? Was that what it was called?
Fat's Grill.
Fat's Grill. Oh my God. Okay, so what a name. Any maybe that could be coming down the line as part of niche food group. Fat's Grill.
No, probably not. But it's definitely a special place for me, and it was a cool start, and it was just. It's funny because craft beer and all that stuff actually had a bigger start in Salt Lake City than anywhere else. And so these microbreweries and stuff we probably had way more than when I came to St. Louis, because
really,
because St. Louis, Anheuser-Busch really pushed everybody down, and so it was Schlafly was the only real microbrew around, in AV. So it was this cool pool hall that served craft beers and decent bar food.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So did you work your way up through there before you started kind of really focusing on food and advancing your career there?
No, so it was interesting. Right around that time, I saw kind of an educational consultant, because I was thinking of going back to college, and the guy was kind of I have some learning disabilities too. I have some processing disorders, and he was like, "Look," he's like, "You learn. Your learning style is hands-on. That's the way I learn, through doing things in repetition." And he's like, "You're enjoying this new job of yours. Why don't you give culinary school a shot?" So I enrolled in the Salt Lake City Community College in their cooking program, and that was kind of the start. And then I, got a job in a fine dining restaurant, and went out to Europe for a little bit, and kind of just snowballed from there.
Okay. So what was that kind of age span? Because I know you opened up niche at 25, right? So that was what?
18.
Okay, so you spent a good couple of years kind of getting your chops ready for this big job.
Yeah, I mean, I opened a restaurant too early too, though. So I will say that during that time, I was kind of all in. It was just I think once you get into that level of cooking and starting to get into the fine dining, things like that, it's just kind of, your old friends are gone. Yeah. You're maybe I'll see you at, 1 in the morning at the bar for
Yeah.
your last drink or something. And
I was going to ask you, is it like what they kind of portray in media, in TV and movies, where, just the immense pressure that you're on to perform in those types of settings? Like, I've just watched Fresh Off the Bear. Which I don't know, I was going to ask you your thoughts on that show, but like, is it that much pressure? Is it that time consuming to really get great at what you're doing? Yeah.
Yeah. Take that a step further. I mean, anything that you want to do, if you want to be great, takes that level of commitment.
Love it. So you weren't ready, because my next question is going to come up was, how did you know you were ready for opening Niche at age 25? What inspired you to make that jump and come here to St. Louis, which we'll get to? So we'll save the St. Louis part, but how do you get going with Niche?
Yeah, so I had been in Los Angeles at the Chateau Marmont Hotel, and came back to Salt Lake City, Utah, and decided, I was working at this great restaurant under a now very good friend, Harry Hendricks, and I don't know, I was like, I want to do my own thing. And I have a weird hobby of sitting up late at night looking at real estate. Everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I started to read some things about St. Louis, and I think it was through like Bon Appetit magazine, and maybe they had featured like An American Place at the time, which was a guy named Larry Forgione, who was kind of like he was a cooking legend in New York, who decided to open a restaurant in St. Louis at the time. And Kevin Nashin had just bought Sydney Street Cafe, and then Monarch was kind of like I think they were featured as well, and they were one of the high-end restaurants here at the time. And I was like, wow, it's kind of cool. It's like, emerging scene, and even Larry Forgione's. I've always been kind of a nomad, in my life, leaving home at 16. And I just said, maybe I'll go check out St. Louis.
Because that was my expert, is why St. Louis. And I've read some of your comments around that. Some of it, I think, I want to talk to you about these, but some of them being that like St. Louis has this kind of loyalty to independent type restaurants and not necessarily buying in on all the chains. That was one, and I know that you also have a lot of the same kind of look and feel of restaurants, at least at the time you were looking at St. Louis. So you wanted to kind of come here and mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the country as a whole had a look about certain types of food, and a lot of my family's in New York City, so I was spending a lot of time going over there. And there was a restaurant that's closed during the pandemic, sadly, called Prune, that I was really into and used to go to. And right around the corner from there, both in the Lower East Side, there was a place called the Tasting Room, which was like super unique, tiny restaurant, but small plate kind of driven, and all quote unquote farm to table, which wasn't an exhausted term at that point. Because nobody did buy stuff from farmers,
which is crazy. You made that such a focus of what you're doing too.
And so and I came to town and I saw a food magazine. It was Sauce Magazine, and I was like, these guys have their own food magazine. Like, who has their own food magazine? And I think there was just a lot of things that felt really good about it. I loved the architecture a lot in St. Louis, and especially in Benton Park, where we opened our first one. So
incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. All from just that late night scrolling.
Yeah.
I
found it on Backpage.com.
Which
was like the sketchy Craigslist.
That's hilarious. Great origins though. Great origins. But Niche, how do we come upon that name? Any significance there?
I think that we were looking to describe a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And my ex-wife actually was like, what about a niche? That's like a hole in the wall. Like, not only does that do describe the space, which is only 1,500 square feet and shotgun, but also kind of like a life's work, right?
Love it.
Like, this is your niche.
Okay, so it's, I mean, it's in the name. You don't have to look too far. It's kind of the definition. That's the you're going for.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. But obviously, a niche is what won you the James Beard Award. And for people hear that and they're like, wow, that's really impressive. But also people are like, I don't know what the process is to get that, how that goes. I guess at a very high level, Gerard, can you tell us what that looked like, how much that meant to you guys, and you personally?
Yeah, you know, I should highlight, or, state at first that, when we came here, Niche had no intentions of being a James Beard Award-winning restaurant. They wanted to be kind of a neighborhood restaurant, and I thought of it more like some of the places in New York, and like super casual, and but oddly, we didn't have that clientele yet. Those young people going out to eat.
Right.
That wasn't really St. Louis yet. It is now, but it wasn't then. And so all of my clientele was coming, from West County. There was still some locals supporting. But all of a sudden, it was like this drive of like, well, this service isn't fancy enough, and so we just started, pushing ourselves and going our kind of fine dining roots and just like seeing how far we could push it, and then we got Food and Wine Best New Chef, which saved us from going bankrupt. Actually, at the time, we were very. I was looking at jobs in Washington D.C. by my home, and
what could have been, right? I mean, had you not gotten that, where would you be right now?
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, right.
Maybe in D.C. stuff. Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, qualitatively, it meant a lot to you, I'm sure, to obtain that award. But quantitatively, I heard, I think in a different podcast, you're on the LinkedIn podcast recently. Listen to that. But is it like a 30% jump in sales or whatever, like traffic at least, when you get that? That's crazy.
Well, yeah, and Food and Wine was kind of even crazier because nothing had come to St. Louis like that, and so I mean, I was on the cover of the Post-Dispatch. I mean, can't remember which food writer it was, but like followed me around for a day. Like I was like, this is wild, and it changed the game for us, though. So those awards kind of became a little more than just like, hey, I want a pat on the back. It became like, well, we need. Niche wasn't a super profitable restaurant. We were like, we need to keep people coming into this restaurant.
That is crazy. And so that was number one, right? And then fast forward now, like I mentioned, we're I think soon to be nominated. But so all of them with very different concepts, though, too, which fascinated me. I mean, you've got Pastaria, you got Brasserie, you had Sardella, and you had obviously Niche, you had Braswell with the burger. I mean, how do you get inspired these menus? You mentioned kind of the South American influence for like Cinder House, which totally makes sense to me. Otherwise, how do you go out and find inspiration for these menus, these concepts?
Yeah, so I mean, the first few were really easy because when we were looking for, so after Food and Wine, we decided we're going to open another restaurant and something more casual, and we were looking for spaces for an Italian restaurant. For maybe what would be a pastaria-ish, and we were looking for a trattoria, and the brasserie space came up as Chez Leon, and I loved that restaurant, and so I was like, yeah, this is a great spot. And then we were like, well, why are we doing Italian for this? Like, that space just felt like Paris, right? And so we were like, hey, let's just, I had worked in Paris and fall in love with, the little bistros around there.
Yeah.
And I was like, why don't we just do like simple, like, while Niche was trying to do modern food, why don't we just do like classic brasserie food, and we did, and it turned out to work really well because it was a lot more affordable, and we were going into the depths of the nastiest recession we've ever had, which we also didn't almost make it out of.
You had a couple trials and tribulations through this. I mean, I was going to talk about COVID. I'm sure that was an absolute disaster as well with things. But I feel like people talk about in healthcare. I work in healthcare consulting. My wife works in healthcare, and I have the utmost respect for what happened there too. But I also think the service industry, and specifically food, I'm sure was drastically impacted, maybe prolonged, and could be permanent ramifications for what happened. I mean, anything stick out to you that, man, like just kind of have changed how I look at things now?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything changed and it kept changing. So it wasn't even just like, here's the change.
Right.
It's like been a rolling change. Everything from the beginning where you're like, oh, cool, I just worked for 12, 14 years on this dream that's literally gone. And I have journals that are just like, all right, what do well, like literally my whole life's work at this point is gone.
Yeah.
And so from that to then all of a sudden we're dealing with these like clashes of angry customers, and you're like, what is like
Right.
oh my god, to inflation, to it's just kind of been one of those, one thing after another. But I would say that nobody's more fit to deal with it than restaurant people, number one.
Yep.
And people talk about it in a lot of ways, but like during the Great Recession, like I didn't get any help. There was no government sending me a check. Yeah. There was nothing.
No.
Like I know the banks got a lot of checks,
Right.
but we got absolutely nothing. And so we scraped through the Great Recession, where now I think restaurants got, sure, there could have been more in certain ways, but like we got a lot of great help, and thank God, because none of us would be here if we hadn't.
Wow. I mean, I feel like you've already touched on a couple of just almost like couldn't have been. Like we may not be here, and who knows what kind of path you'd be taking out at that point. But I mean, so glad we are here.
Yep.
On the other side of a lot of those things. I'm sure there are other things off in the distance that'll come at some point.
Yeah.
But I feel like you learn a lot from these experiences. And what I was going to kind of pick your brain about is some of your guys' core values in each food group. And I read about the truth that you mentioned before. I don't know how well those tie together, but I would love to hear your perspective on the truth.
Okay. So I'm gonna try and run through these real quick.
What you got?
There's 5 of them, but I started at number 2 when I explained them, because in 2012, I think I was having like a personal crisis, and just like we had 4 restaurants that I wasn't managing well, from behind the scenes. I don't think people noticed that, but I noticed it, and I was always angry and frustrated, and didn't know why people couldn't do their job right, all these things. And then I found out that it was all my fault. They're like, oh, you're just really a bad manager, and you have no clue how to kind of define what it is that you've done, all that I have done all of these years, and how to maybe translate that into something bigger so that we can all do it together, and it's not like a me show. And so the number 2 value, so these 4 kind of already existed, I just didn't know how to translate them. So honesty was one, and honesty more in the sense of like the hard conversations, hey, if I make a bad dish, like I want somebody to tell me about it. So if you make a bad dish, I'm going to tell you about it. And if something we're doing is not working, we don't want a bunch of people going around kissing each other's butts. And, we're all killing it.
Yes.
Like, you're not killing it. So honesty, and then followed by failure, and being able to kind of embrace failure and see it, because I think until you can embrace it, you don't recognize it. If you never recognize your mistakes or failures, you can't grow from them. You can't use them as stepping stones for the next thing. Like I said, we just announced Toronto again.
Yes, I've heard.
In the same context, and it's a stepping stone for us. Like, it may not have worked the first time, but it might turn into something different. Or our barbecue concept was supposed to be a barbecue restaurant downtown a long time ago, and just didn't pan out.
It's the failure capital that I heard. I love the way, I've never heard that second word attached to failure, but I love the idea.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating.
I mean, you have an enormous amount of equity built into all those failures. So don't waste them.
Right.
and then it's innovation, and really just kind of about looking at everything fresh every single day. You know, the worst thing anybody could say is, you know, we've always done it that way.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
Right.
You know, like, you know, maybe I came up with something, you know, 5 years ago, and you have found a better way to do it. Like, don't hold back just because we've always done it that way. Like, let's do it better, you know. And then legacy. You know, everything being about just, you know, trying to make what we're doing today better than it was yesterday. And that's our legacy, you know, throughout life, you know, wherever you are, right? You know, whether it's your family, your friends, you're always trying to do a little bit better every day, because literally, I mean, that's all we can do. And that adds up. When you take your life like that and, you know, put one foot in front of the other every day, even though you've stumbled behind, you know, to keep in mind that you're just trying to be better than you were yesterday. So the one thing that really wasn't a part of it, even though it was a part of our like day-to-day vocabulary, was hospitality. We always talked about the hospitality industry, you know, giving great hospitality to guests, but really we didn't really extend that to each other, right? And you know, so you know, when you're talking about those kitchen shows, whatever, and you see a lot of like kind of shouting at each other and people just being, you know, really like not cool to each other. Like I was 100% that, you know, and it's how I came up, and it's how I acted. And you know, there's the saying, when you know better, do better. Yeah. You know, I think there came a moment where all of a sudden I was like, you're an idiot. You know, you're mad because you haven't set anybody up for success, and that's why you're mad. You're not mad at them. Like, you're acting mad at them, you're blaming them, when you should just be blaming yourself the whole time, and you know, and treating everybody a lot better. Because honestly, at the end of the day, you know, yes, like when chefs would shout at me, I would work maybe a little faster in that moment, but I also burnt out a lot faster in those scenarios, and everybody does. It's not a good way to live. It's not a long-term way to live. And if we want to see this industry as a real career, which for a long time nobody considered it, you know, we need better work environments. We need to, you know, again, we need to, our blood pressure can't be through the roof every 2 minutes. It's hard enough to get, you know, a million meals out the door at a certain time, hot and seasoned correctly, without the drama tied to it. And so, you know, so those are our values, and it's something we really try to stick by. And, you know, obviously, you know, it's not a perfect science, it's a practice, and it's something that we have to talk about every single day. It's something that we coach everybody in every day. It's something that we have to get introspective about every single day.
Yeah, I was going to use introspective too, because I mean, to come up with those as well, I mean, and to reflect on it like you did, and kind of say, this is what I'm doing, this is how I want things to go, but what I'm doing doesn't translate to how I want things to go, and to kind of look inward and fix that. Did anyone, Gerard, stick out to you as someone that kind of modeled or walked that path, that helped kind of shape that for you?
Well, so during this like kind of personal meltdown of mine, I was on a plane somewhere and read, and you know, I think you're in the airport, you're looking at the books in the newsstand, and like, feel like things just jump at you when the time to jump at you. And there was a book called Delivering Happiness, and I was like, well, I'm really unhappy.
Right.
I'm really down to get some happiness. And I was the founder of Zappos, who unfortunately passed, you know, just in the past couple of years. And I started reading this book on this. It was flying to Japan, and so I had a long time to think and read, and it really talked about, you know, how unhappy he was running this company, and then how when he started Zappos, he really wanted to like a shift in the culture and kind of how he went about it. And he talked about also a book called Tribal Leadership, which I then proceeded to download and read on my Kindle. And those two books, I think, really just sparked something for me. And and kind of started this journey. I didn't know how frustrating of a journey it was going to be. I came back and I was supercharged. I was like, yeah, we're going to change this company overnight.
Right.
Nope. And I talk about this today. Our director of service, I think, laughed at me when I talked about it, because she was just like, I know you.
Yeah, right.
This is not you. And so I had to walk the walk, and I had to learn, and I had to keep on taking feedback. And one of these things in tribal leadership, they'll make you go around to a few people that you really trust and respect, and will give you some honesty. And you have to ask for the hardest of truths, and you can't say anything back. You can't defend it. You can't take it. Just listen and take it. And so I think things like that, challenges like that, kind of helped me take that deep dive into myself, and because look, it all starts with us. You gotta take that journey into yourself before you start taking a journey into anybody else.
That's incredible, and I love the honesty too. I appreciate that. I'm sure people will love hearing that. I'm sure we've all had moments in crises similar to that, where are we on the right career path? Are we doing the right thing with our relationship? Whatever have you. I feel like what you're saying is easily translatable to every sort of life domain at this point.
And this has affected, these transformations have affected how I continue to look at myself, how I continue to look at myself as a parent and say, like, oh God, you're really you did not handle that situation with your kids right. You need to rethink, how you're talking, and how you're listening to your kids. So this affects everything.
Right. It does. Okay, so we've navigated the crisis you were going through. We advanced a couple of years through new concepts, new restaurants, many of which are still around today. We can get to that at the end. But all of a sudden, the news of this club kind of popped up to get into the St. Louis City part of this all. And I've heard how it started for you is that you actually reached out to Carolyn Kendall-Betts first about this and just said, hey, I might have some thoughts about how you guys can do the food scene there. How was that initial conversation? Was she pretty receptive off the bat, or was this more of an ongoing, let's chat at some point here in the future?
So I had done a dinner with our restaurant, Cinder House, down at the Gateway Arch, and she was speaking at the dinner, and we talked for a minute, and after that I had heard about her pitch to get a soccer team. So this was super early in the process.
Right.
3-4 years ago, 4 years ago maybe. And so I reached out on Facebook and I was like, hey, I know, this is such a long shot and so far away. I said, but I have some thoughts on stadium food. And I've been in Nashville quite a bit for one of our restaurants, and they've got a really cool concept, on a very small level at the AAA baseball stadium. And Strategic Hospitality runs that, and I was like, it's really cool, and it's kind of sparked a lot of thoughts for me on what stadium food could or should be. And it was kind of like it. She said, "Oh, thank you. Actually, I was totally thinking, about this, and I'll get back to you if anything comes up." And so it was probably like a year and a half, or maybe longer, that they got the team. And a couple months after they got the team, I got a message that said, hey, if you're still interested, we'd love to talk. And so I came down to HOK one day, and there they were designing this stadium, and I was like, I'm in. Okay.
I love just hearing that story, because I read it and heard about it too, Gerard, but you were at the ground floor pretty much. You were there before we even got awarded the franchise. So the fact that they had you in on the ground floor, thinking about the food at the forefront, I love to hear, because I think what we try to do in the podcast is highlight not just what happens on the field, but all of the other things that are going on that make this club what it is. And a lot of that's community oriented. It's stuff like the food at City Park. It's things that make it shine and make it different, and make it not just about winning games and winning championships. But I love they took you so seriously off the bat, and you got going on that. So you said you've had some stadium ideas, and you got them from the AAA. No one does it, though, at this scale. I mean, was that one of your initial thoughts, was to basically fill as much as we can in the stadium with local food scene to give people a taste of that at stadium?
You know, I didn't think we were going to get anywhere near this, to be honest. One, me being naive, I didn't even know how big of a deal this was going to be. I didn't know, I kind of thought about this more like AAA, as far as the stadium goes and stuff like that. And I had no clue what they had in mind when they were going to be designing the stadium until I went to an HOK, and I was like, oh my God. I don't know if I belong in here. I was like in a t-shirt and jeans. Everybody was in suits and stuff, and it was awesome. And they were so cool. And they were so, so welcoming. And but we, I think we all started to look at it and started to kind of chip away at different things, avenues we could take. And they talked to the owner. I said the ownership group talked a lot about really kind of wanting to represent, as many people in St. Louis as they could, and such a diverse sport, and such a diverse fan base, and we want to try and make as many people feel seen as humanly possible, and so we just started to chip away at that idea, and hey, maybe this is going to be like, maybe we can get 8 stalls, and sometimes there's a lot of like financial stuff that people can't see behind the scenes, and to really know that the risks and the leaps of faith that the ownership group took to really all of a sudden go, we're not going to take any sponsorship for food. It is literally crazy. Nobody will understand how crazy it is and how awesome it was for them to do that. But there's no Papa John's, there's no Domino's, there's no, because those people come in and it's more like advertising dollars. They spend a ton of money to get in, and as we started, especially I think the pandemic helped really like push forward. The ownership group's like, we gotta help restaurants. We gotta, we want this to pump restaurants up, and just we want to get everybody activated. We want to, use tech to involve the rest of downtown and all these different bars, and to get them business. And so everything that they've done has really been to bring business to other people and to make it accessible. And that's the next hurdle was, okay, well, even non-sponsorship, even local partners in other stadiums have to pay a large chunk of money to get in the stadium. And they said, we will waive that fee so that we can, so you see in other stadiums a lot of times, like even, the local ones might be like a more substantial group of restaurants, right? And, some of these little mom and pops are not going to, be able to pay their way in. And, so I think that was the coolest thing, is that we got to say, hey, we're going to, look for what we think is awesome, regardless of its size. And one of my favorite taquerias, I think they have like 8, maybe they have 12 seats inside, and it's called La Tiendita, and they're in there, and that's like, to me, awesome. and they're killing it, right? Like, a lot of people said that these guys couldn't keep up, like not them specifically, but just small businesses, and they've adapted better than any large corporation that I could see.
It's fantastic. It's super cool. And I don't know if this is your idea or whose idea this was, but you guys took submissions of, who do you want to see pop into the stadium? And you got maybe 10,000. I've heard thousands at least.
Yeah, I think I heard 10,000.
Insane.
I think that's probably a Matt Seebeck and team move. Who are again, I get to work with like the coolest people in all of their categories. Right. The film team was just like,
we're gonna talk about that.
Oh my God, that was so awesome. Everybody who works in that team is driven to a different level. And in anybody who's read Tribal Leadership, this is like definitely stage 5 level thinking. And these guys are all competing. They're not even competing like against anybody else anymore. They're just like competing like for our city.
I mean, so to think about what you started with all these ideas, everyone wants to be included, obviously. Did anyone, as you're kind of going through this as the chief flavor officer, did anyone reach out to you, say, did anyone say no, like just not ready for that step, or it's not comfortable with that, or was that often and people just don't know or hear about that?
You mean at the stadium?
Yeah, the stadium. Did anyone say no to being welcomed into the stadium or having pop up at the stadium?
Oh no, they. I mean, Carolyn's
It's exciting. Yeah, I mean, why not? But it like you mentioned, there's a balance to strike, right? Because it's not for everyone. Like we've seen these concepts fail at stadiums before, and I think there was an article I read recently about how to strike that balance because the expense model is different, the profits are all different, and you have to trust, the hospitality staff to take care of those kind of things. Can you highlight for anyone that's not as close, that's some of the difficulties or things you have to think about when translating your brick and mortar into a stadium or arena?
Yeah, I mean, one is the volume.
Yeah.
The volume is massive. And you're going to see a lot of higher prices, and that's just because the rent,
right,
in a stadium that may only operate 20-something games is very high.
Yeah.
And but that being said, I think comparatively, stadium to stadium, all the food's expensive.
Yeah.
Might as well get something amazing.
Yeah.
So it's expensive and amazing, as opposed to like an expensive hot dog where the bun has like dissolved inside of the wrapper.
Yeah.
And
expensive
and gross.
Yeah.
And so I mean, there's the volume. There's a lot of like annoying stuff like insurance and contracts and things like that. So once you get through some of those hurdles, and then we have an awesome culinary team that works for Levy. So Levy Restaurants is the management group that manages food and beverage, and we have Ben Groupie is the chef down there, and who's James Beard nominated chef, and I look to him and Jamie Talktrop down there because they're just rock stars, and they keep everything like organized and moving in the right direction. And then the biggest failures that you see or that you hear of in these scenarios is because a lot of the times in stadiums of past, they would do licensing deals. And what that means is, so if you did a licensing deal with me, for instance, we would say, hey, I'm going to give you all my recipes and you're going to execute them. And I'm going to hope that it all turns out good. I'm going to take a little fee or something like that, but you guys are going to get the majority because you're operating.
Okay.
And obviously,
quality might drop a little bit there.
Might drop a lot.
Yeah.
And then, we've heard the horror stories in stadiums past. And so for this, we didn't want any of that. I said, look, we can't have anybody. If somebody's in here, we want their team operating it. And I think the number one thing that I saw traveling around to different stadiums before all of this was that the self-operated places killed it.
Yeah.
Even this was during the pandemic that I was traveling. And so like they were like rushing it while everybody else was really struggling to keep up. And I was like, look, what if we filled all of these? What if we could get enough people to fill all of them? And I think we still may have like 3 or something in that whole stadium that aren't locally run. And they all do such a good job. That's the part I love. And profitability, we won't know till the end. Right. But I'll say this, that we're killing any projections for food sales. People are lining up at the gates pregame. We're the only stadium that has a pregame crush where it's bigger than halftime. Yep. Most stadiums, people show up right at game time, and then halftime, they just crush the food. Right. People are coming here to dine. Yeah. I mean, this is like this is part of the event. And so, these sales are astronomical in comparison not because of me and like some social media posts or something, but because all of these people have put in like their hearts and souls into putting quality food in a stadium. And sometimes when you do things like that, like, that's profitable.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and people listening to, I mean, you're describing it. The bar has been set. This type of model has not been done before, at least to the scale that you all have. And if you haven't been to the stadium, people need to go, because it is very much a culinary experience, just as much as if there's soccer going on there. Like, you walk around and you're hit in the face by all these different local people that have restaurants, and some small, some big, but all in one place. And you can go around and have a little walk around the stadium and try different things from different people. And yeah, there's lines, but there's mobile ordering too, so there's tech meets, very exciting new food. And I think the way that you guys have created a little melting pot just right inside that stadium, whereas you think about the city as a melting pot, you created one large melting pot right there. And I just hats off to you and the team, because it's fantastic. And I've dined at a couple places already, and I plan to try to hit as many as possible.
So good.
It's awesome. It is awesome. And then you have to star in your own series on YouTube, City Flavor, which is awesomely done. You said kudos to the film team for doing that. How did that feel, being in front of the camera and doing kind of like your own little food show for a little series?
I will say kudos to the team for not making me look overly stupid. I am not an actor. I don't really like being in the limelight. Despite my career path, like, I got into kitchens to hide, and but it was really cool, and they made it enjoyable. They made it fun. They made it a good time, and it was great. I mean, the setup for all of these things, I was like, this team is nuts. I'm like, we're filming a movie over here.
The quality was impeccable. It was I watched it twice now, front to back. And I don't know what my favorite episode is, but anything stick out to you when you were prepping for this? Obviously, you probably had some advance notice, but did you look at anything and say, I want to do something like that? Or like, anything stick in your mind as I watch this show, or I like how this guy or this girl does this in their food show? Did you model your performance after anyone? No inspiration at all?
I didn't get to really design the whole production, so I kind of just
fair.
Showed up and talked. And I think, the things that really worked in that whole filming process, was where, like, Matt and I get to really chat, and we get to, whether it's chatting with each other or chatting with the different chefs. My favorite scene in that was chatting with the owners of Smokey O's at Beast Barbecue. Yeah. And I was like, they were like, cut, like, got it wrong. I was like, no.
Keep going. Keep going.
Like, let's talk for a bit. Like, the most fascinating people. And, So, I mean, if I was ever to do, like, food TV, like, I can get into that.
Yeah.
Like, where you're just chatting. Like, if you tell me to say a line 3 times in a row, I'm going to get very annoyed real quick.
And you couldn't tell that it was, like, not scripted, because I think it just felt so organic and great to meet the people behind these fantastic restaurants. I went back to Vulcan like 2 days after I watched the Vulcan Treat Box, and I saw the team there, and it was amazing. And I got what you guys were showing on camera. Like, it's inspiring to go out and try these new places. And I wanted to ask you, is there any plans to continue that at some point? Like, I would love to see more episodes of City Flavor.
Yeah, I think it would be really cool. Maybe, who knows? Maybe for next season, we'll if we have some player shifts in the food world,
that could be fun. Yeah, that could be fun. I mean, there's so many different places to highlight, so that would be a joy, I think, for me to watch. I wanted to ask you.
I just want to hang out with those guys. The film crew is the coolest crew in the whole stadium.
Yeah, and you get to try some incredible food as well. So, I mean, you get to fill the stomach. But awesome. And the last thing I have on the City Front is, as a fan, I don't know how big of a soccer fan you were coming into this whole thing, or if you had any sort of fandom at all, but how have you experienced it? The City Club, performing like they have and having a great first season so far. Has it been fun?
It's it's been life changing. It's I was with a friend of mine last night, and he was talking about it. He just went to his first game, and it was the KC game. And he was like getting goosebumps even while he was talking to me about the energy in that club. And I think, if you were to distill everything that's happened down there, it's this energy, it's this from St. Louis, from from Seebeck and his team, from Carolyn, Lee and Jason, like the executive teams, and like everybody has this energy about just whatever it takes. And then the team, oh my God,
they're
Like-
personifying it right now.
Yeah,
I love to
you
see
know,
it.
the Lutz and Bradley,
Yeah.
like, you know, like, and they're all awesome people.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I mean, you know, it's like a real life Ted Lasso story.
Yeah,
It's
it
pretty-
kind of is. I like that
it is.
comparison. Yeah.
It's why, you know, it's kind of cliche to say it, but like it literally is.
Yeah.
You know.
That's hilarious. That's a great way to talk about it. And the last thing I want to remember, because I want to mention to you, is I think that picture of you with the pizzas at the Cincinnati game kind of went like St. Louis viral. Is there any story there? Because I think you had like, it looked like 8 to 10 pizzas carrying down the supporters section for the Luligans. And that was the Cincinnati game, I think, where we just ran over them with tons of goals. But anything stick out to you from that night? Any story behind that?
Yeah, so, you know, one time on Twitter, you know, somebody from the band was like, hey, you know, they weren't even saying hey, they were just like, oh, God, you know, we'll get out there soon. It's hard to get away from the, you know, drum pit or whatever. And I was like, all right, next game. And so I was like making it my mission every game to try to get them something new from one of the different vendors out there. And then, you know, a lot of the vendors have stepped up, and, you know, the Block sent them food one time. Balkan, Steve sent them food another time. Yeah.
Not surprising at all. I feel like that's very St. Louis type thing and mentality. But I love that picture. And you're like balanced against the little beam, and I'm like, I just hope he doesn't go down, because I remember seeing it in the broadcast as well. He had this big smile. I think he had just scored. It was right in front of you. It sticks.
I was waiting to jump on the field to run over to the supporters,
but
then they scored.
Oh my God, that's incredible. But the last couple of kind of things we have for you, Gerard, just more personal, kind of fun on the side. But, you know, going home, you know, after, you know, later nights tonight or whenever, how big a part of your family is food? Is it pretty interwoven into the fabric of your family, or do you guys cook a lot together as a group, or how important is that to you guys and your family that you're building?
Yeah, so, you know, my 2 daughters and I, you know, I've one daughter who is more like me as a kid, you know, and selective of what she eats, and she keeps me on my toes because I'll try and like make like the perfect mac and cheese for her version, or the perfect chicken fingers for her version. And I mean, it is humbling. You know, like they
tough crowd.
Yeah, they don't hold any shots. You know, and then you know, my older daughter, I'll try and like go through different cookbooks and like try to like find fun things that she's into. She's a little more adventurous, and you know, so I have fun. You know, she watched a lot of those Bon Appetit cooking series, so I go to a lot of those chefs and like look through their recipes. And
good stuff.
You know, I never, and most people probably wouldn't understand this per se, but I wasn't a good home cook. I'm still learning to be
That's a little surprising.
Home cook.
Okay.
And you know, I was divorced a few years ago, and I had to really, you know, cook more at home, and I wasn't that great at it.
You weren't ready for it.
You know, I was you know, used to things coming together more like a building and different pieces, and like, you know, orchestrate all these different things. And, you know, that's not what people want to eat at home. You know, like, it's not what your kids want to eat. They want to eat, like, an awesome mac and cheese. Or, like, you know, I think, like, I had, like, the roast chicken, you know, like that. I'm solid with a few home things, but you got to get some variety going.
You do. Has there been any favorites that you've been able to create now, building your home cooking chef skills, which is just so funny? That doesn't really translate to home. But anything stick out as like, you know what, they're so excited when I make this?
I mean, like, so like pizza at home. That's a winner. When I was doing R&D for Fordos, oh my God, that was like I was the man.
Wow.
And I bought one of those little uni ovens.
Yeah, I've seen.
And you know what? It's a gas one, and
oh really?
It was like $300, and
it's quick, right? It's really quick.
It produces the same pizzas that I get out of my oven at Fordos.
It's amazing.
It's wild. And for, like, you know, back in the day when we were doing Pasteria's R&D, I bought a backyard pizza oven, And it was like a massive, you know, like 1,000-pound oven. It was really expensive, and you can't move it. And you have this tiny little thing,
just on Amazon,
and it produces better pizzas than that home pizza.
We've come so far. Even
and I'm not sponsored by these guys, by the way.
No, they're good. I've seen them. In
it's legit.
Yeah, they are legit. So, okay, so we got pizza night. Pizza night is a staple.
Pizza night is always a staple. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you know, my older daughter loves Molly Baz.
Okay.
You know, so I cook a lot of stuff out of her cookbook.
Nice.
And Carla Lally music, she's, you know, really into, and cool. And then my older daughter also does love when I make feijoada occasionally.
Okay.
You know, it's really rich, so it's kind of like occasionally. So I'll make, you know, some home style stuff.
Okay. Have either of them kind of picked up an inkling, you think, to maybe be leaning towards this as a career profession, or is it too early?
You know, my youngest is super into potentially like event planning and things like that. You know, I don't think so with my older daughter. You know, I think she's looking more in kind of the, you know, she's amazing, and she does a lot of work with kids with disabilities. And so, you know, she's kind of looking into maybe more of like the medical or physical therapy side of that world. But hey, you know, if any of them want to, I used to say no way.
Yeah,
you're not allowed.
Now we're a little more open to it.
And I'm like, look, you know, I think the goal in life, and I was lucky to have parents who were cool with me finding my own path. The goal in life is to find something that you enjoy doing. Because again, we talked about it, bring it full circle. We talked about this in the beginning. You want to be great at anything. There's no real balance to that. You know, like people talk about work-life balance, and that's really hard while you're trying to become great at something. I think the balance comes with being able to enjoy some of what you do. And so if you can enjoy, you know, you're not going to enjoy all of it, but if you can enjoy a majority of what you do, like you're going to have a happier existence.
That sounds incredible. No, absolutely. So what about when we're not working as the Gerard Craft that we all see, or as a father, when you're busy doing all those work? What do you like to do outside of work and outside of being a father?
So I moved out west to be by mountain bike trails.
Okay, there we go.
Like
there we go.
Colorado.
There we go.
I'm like, you know, but we have some great mountain bike trails out here, and so I like to mountain bike. I haven't, you know, since winter. I got injured in the winter, and just starting to get back into it again. But like the second I get on a bike in the woods, I'm like, you know, it's so calming. Even when you just stop on the side and sit for a while and like take in, I think they call it like tree bathing or forest bathing or something like that. Yeah, they say it fights cancer.
I believe it.
Like real studies.
Wow.
But you know, that's a very like peaceful place for me. And then you get to, you know, take out all your energy on the bike and stuff like that. So I love doing that. My business partner owns Big Muddy Adventure. Big shout out to them. And they have the little boat shop right behind Bellwood.
I saw it.
And he got me to buy a canoe finally. I live right by the Merrimack. You know, so you know, I try and jump out on my canoe, and he's kind of taught me a lot about that kind of stuff. And so you know, I think that's the other thing. I think just trying to like get away, you know, sometimes is my piece.
Okay, awesome. I have kind of going back a little bit to food here, I guess. When you're not preparing it, or you're not at one of your own establishments, are there any places or types of food you like to go explore in St. Louis that particularly kind of stand out to you?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, my two like local joints are La Tiendita and Malinche, which is, you know, right around the corner. And so I love those places. I go more there than almost anywhere. But when I'm not out there, you know, I love everything Nick Wagner's doing. You know, Indo and his new place, Sato. And I was really sad when he moved Ponte out from my part of the world. And Peacemaker, lobster and crab, you know, super casual. I'm from Washington D.C., off, you know, not far from the Chesapeake, so crabs are my thing. Fork and sticks is like, I don't go enough. I need to like go more. Yeah, one of our guest chefs coming up at the stadium is Tiny, Melanie from Tiny Chef.
Yes.
Oh my God, like the most, like, it's in this dive bar, the Silver Ballroom,
So cool.
And she's cooking just really delicious and fun Korean food. I eat at the Foundry quite a bit, chicken scratch.
Which is great. Yes.
I get like chicken scratch chickens to bring home.
Yeah.
And then I'll stop by like Chez Ali or Sureste.
Make your way around.
God, yeah.
I mean, it's never enough. I feel the same way. I want to go out and do more, but I follow like magazines and show me like, what's closed, what just opened, what's opening soon, or what's doing this. And I feel like every single time I see this, it's like once a month. There's always way too many places that are getting piled on the places I was already trying to go to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like the thing for me is I like to try to remember like the places I just like to go.
Yeah.
My girlfriend lives over by the hill. We go to like Pizzeria Gloria or Milo's across the street.
Yep.
Let's say Milo's or Milo's.
I hear Milo's.
Milo's would be like Italian, but
I hear Milo's. I'm married into an Italian family. They say Milo's. Cool. I'm gonna rest my head on that.
See, like that's how you know I'm not like St. Louisian at heart. I'm a fraud. But no, I mean I love going over there for some grilled wings and like whatever.
So many good spots you mentioned there. I'm gonna have to like a couple of
It's endless. Like St. Louis, and I tell people this. Everybody's like, why can't we be more like Nashville? And I'm like, look, I love Nashville, but like careful what you wish for, right? Like, it also brings in like just like a lot of like corporate kind of stuff and on top of everything. And we have so much good food here. Like, I mean, look, I just named all, listed off like 12 or 15.
Yeah, and there's prepared.
And like, I have so many more.
Right.
So
there's no shortage of options.
No.
In St. Louis. I feel like every type of cuisine, you could probably find a place or two
that
is doing that. I love it here too. I'm born and bred in St. Louis, so I know how it goes. But trying to expand my horizons a little more. But you've given me some good options. But you have two more options coming out. I think one later this year and one in 2024, Gerard. But Expat, you mentioned Toronto already. So tell us about Expat and Toronto.
So Expat is barbecue using kind of American, say North American barbecue techniques. Mainly smoker and grill, but we're taking flavors from barbecue cultures around the world, and so it's kind of like taking in the eyes of an expat, right? Like, say you wanted to, say you're living in China and you wanted to smoke ribs, what would you do? And or South America or Australia, whatever, and so we're really just trying to have a lot of fun. It's kind of something we did at Fordo's, where we took very traditional Neapolitan pizza crust, and we were like, all right, now screw the traditions. Like, let's have fun with flavor. And I think the pandemic was so stressful, right? And it was just like, let's have fun. That's how dining has also gotten very serious over the years, and I was part of that, and I think for me even I just I didn't want to when a chef's having fun, I love it. I mean, again, like Nick Koenig, perfect example. The Japanese, Thai, these kind of fusion cooking, which got a really horrible name because it was done so badly. But hey, when it's done really well and simply, it can be really remarkable.
Okay. So Expat coming to us. You said, is it the latter part of this year?
Yeah. So it got pushed back a little bit. We're looking at December of 23 or January of 24, and then
in City Foundry, correct?
In the City Foundry.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be 3 floors.
I've seen the concept. It looks insane.
First floor is full service, server and everything, more like full plates and stuff like that. Whereas the full upstairs has this giant terrace with garage doors. If you're ever walking into the Foundry Food Hall and you look straight up, you see the patio.
Yeah.
And that upstairs is just going to be kind of like barbecue sandwiches, burgers.
Okay.
We have a stage up there for bands to play.
Yeah.
We'll be able to do kind of like whole hog events up there. If you want to
nice.
like throw a big
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
And then the middle floor is just more of a party floor, right? You know, birthday parties, you know, welcome conferences, things like that. And, so it's a massive space, but it's broken up enough that it doesn't feel like you're walking into some just massive hall.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about Expo. I saw that news release recently, and I'm like, I gotta ask him about this because it sounds like something that I don't know if we have much of a kind of universal barbecue approach really yet here in St. Louis. We have some great barbecue spots, obviously.
Amazing barbecue.
But that type of thing was different. I wanted to ask about that. And then I heard about Pirano shortly after, which I didn't get the luxury of going to Pirano. But tell us about Pirano, because it's already been open. You did what? How long was it open for, Gerard, downtown?
It was only open for like a year and a half.
Yeah, right.
And so, sorry, I guess it was open for 2 years, but there was only one full like calendar year
Got it.
in there.
Got it.
And you know, we had a 2-year option in that lease because we were kind of like dipping our toes in, and you know, just some things weren't working out for us, and you know, we knew we needed to learn a lot more, and so we kind of put it to bed. At the time we were opening Nashville, and that was taking up so much of my time, so you know, the energy to go try it somewhere else wasn't there. And you know, I think through the pandemic we started really looking at it. We actually thought about almost doing a pop-up out of our commissary kitchen, like a ghost kitchen, which was, you know, becoming popular. And I think we all agreed, like, hey, if we're gonna bring this back, we want to like, let's bring it back legit. Let's not just like throw it in a pop-up and kind of do it half-assed. Like, people have, you know, such a beautiful memory of Pirano. Like, we didn't want to taint that, and so that kind of got us thinking down the road about where we would do it, and you know, what things we could do differently now that we've, you know, run Braswell or, you know, fast casual burgers, and Fordo's or fast casual pizza, and then, you know, consulted on the Foundry Food Hall and the stadium. Like, there's 24 fast casual places, so we've learned a ton in that time, and think we're kind of ready to go down that road. And the response, I mean, I put like one post up, and you know, usually I get like one comment a week, and it's probably like, go to bed, old man. You know, but like, you know, so many people were engaged and just happy, and that was really cool.
I for one am really excited for it, because that type of thing, I can't think of any place that have that really, really approachable kind of fast casual, but really gourmet and farm to table, like true farm to table from what you were doing before, Italian. And so for anyone that's, I guess, so you said, I think 2024, it's in Des Peres. You haven't really confirmed the location yet, so we'll wait on that. But for anyone that's hearing this news just now, describe like kind of what the feel of Pirano is going to be for any new coming.
Yeah, I mean, so like, you know, fresh, bright, think, you know, Chipotle in some ways, right? And I say that only for like the concept of build it yourself. But people were asking me what I would usually eat, and you know, one of the main themes was pasta, because we have fresh pasta there, and kind of cooked pasta to order. But salads and grains were one of the biggest sellers, and for me, what I really missed was I would go in and get like rice and farro and roasted vegetables, and maybe some, you know, roasted chicken, or we had this spicy tofu, and put this pumpkin seed pesto and crispy garlic and jardinera, and like, I mean, it was like the greatest daily eating kind of dinner. And then people will build these salads, and you know, I think that was like, I don't want to say it was a sleeper, it was just a sleeper maybe for the press, but like the people eating there all the time get these huge salads, just like, you know, filled up with, you know, roasted chicken, you know, like spicy Italian vinaigrette, and you know, sweet peppers, and
oh my god,
and like I don't know, it was you know, and then you can get like Detroit style pizza, and you know, fresh pasta, you know, with spicy red pepper sauce, and like, you know, the combinations that I've heard, you know, like people throw out there. I mean, that we have a sign that says ordering is easy, deciding is hard. You know, and that's really true. There's just like so many ways that you can kind of spin your meal.
Right. I read about like just the thousands, maybe tens of hundreds of thousands of combinations you can have there. So for the non-decisive, could be a tough go.
Yeah, we have some presets where you can just be like, I want
that one.
Yeah,
yep, that's it. Oh my God. Well, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Thank you.
And I'm looking. I'm sure everyone else is too. And Expat, everything you've come to the pipeline, I feel like everything you create is so exciting and new for St. Louis. So appreciate you, Gerard, and appreciate you for taking the time with us today.
And you'll need to get the rest of the team because, you know, as we said, the one thing I've learned is it's not about me. It's about all these guys.
And then that is personified by what you've done in City Park too, which is everyone being in there in one homey, intimate place. So we'll be there on Saturday. We'll be there for most Saturdays, obviously, for this whole season. But looking forward to trying some things out, Gerard. And thanks again for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for talking.